Corrections beta. Question 1 reads, what effect does expansionary monetary policy have in the short run on the macroeconomic variables contained in the grid? Indicate increases as plus, decreases as minus, and no change as 0. 11 points. For full credit, you must clearly explain your answers. You must mark your answers in the grid. So, what are we looking at here? We're looking at expansionary monetary policy, which means the money supply goes up. So what the central bank did is to somehow increase the money supply. Four possibilities, I guess, right? Or given the funds rate, maybe 3. So what could they have done using the 4 or 3 tools of monetary policy? 1, the central bank could have decreased the minimum reserve requirement ratio. 2, decreased the discount rate. 3, the central bank could buy treasury bonds from the depository institutions. Anyway, so money supply increases. That's expansionary monetary policy. So what happens to the interest rate? The interest rate goes down. Investment, physical. Do companies borrow more or less? They borrow and spend more. GDP, up. General price level, up. This has a potential of being inflationary, this expansionary monetary policy. Cyclical unemployment, down. Natural unemployment rate, 0, no change. Capital flows, and then clearly state whether inflows or outflows. So our interest rate, in other words, ID, in relation to IF, foreign interest rate. Well, let's assume that initially they were equal. So now our interest rate has fallen in relation to foreign interest rates. I guess this has to be the assumption. So outflow or inflow? It's gonna be what? Well, they're paying more, so it's going to be outflow. Demand for our currency. Well, demand for our currency, that's going to decrease. Value of our currency, that's going to decrease. Exports, well, that's good for our exports, isn't it? If the demand for our currency falls, if the value of our currency falls, so exports increase, and our imports, a lower value for our currency, a lower exchange rate. Is that going to give us, will this give us a higher or lower international purchasing power? It's going to give us a lower purchasing power. So our imports are going to decrease. So these are the 11 answers with explanations. These are the kind of explanations that I was looking for. Okay, question 2. If the natural rate of unemployment in this country is 7%, how much is cyclical unemployment in 2004 and 2005. Is this country likely to be experiencing a recession in 2004 and 2005? And here I wanted to see calculations, and I wanted to see explanations. All right, so let's first calculate the unemployment rate for 2004. So how will this look like? It's going to look like this. U, the unemployment rate, is equal to the number of unemployed. That's 7.4 divided by the labor force. And what is the labor force made up of? The number of unemployed, 7.4 million people. We're dealing with millions of people, plus the number of employed. So it's 105.2, and we have to multiply by 100 because we're calculating the unemployment rate, a percentage. So 7.4 divided by 112.6 times 100 will give us an unemployment rate of 6.57%. That's an approximation, obviously. All right. So what we have just done is we have calculated the total unemployment rate, which includes frictional, structural, and cyclical. Okay. Okay. Now, in this slide, I'm going to calculate the total unemployment rate for the following year, 2005. The equation obviously is the same. U is equal to the number of unemployed people. Number of unemployed in 2005 is 8.1. Down in the denominator is the labor force, and that's the number of unemployed, 8.1 million, plus the number of employed, which is 104.2, and since we want to calculate the unemployment rate, we have to multiply by 100. All right, slight 108.1, 104.100. Okay, so excuse me. So it's 8.1 divided by 112.3 times 100, and that's going to give us 7.21%. All right. All right. The math looks correct. And again, what I've just calculated is the total unemployment rate, which includes frictional, structural, and cyclical. Okay, so before I go any further, I want to clarify something. All right. First, here are the answers from the previous calculations. 2004, 6.57%. 2005, 7.21%. All right. Now, what I want to clarify is the following. The total unemployment rate, what we've been calculating up to now, is equal to UN, that's the natural unemployment rate, plus UC, that's the cyclical unemployment rate. All right, we can go a little bit further by saying that the total unemployment rate is equal to the frictional unemployment rate plus the structural unemployment rate. Again, UF plus US is equal to UN. Again, UF is the frictional unemployment rate. US is the structural unemployment rate. And of course, plus UC, which is the cyclical unemployment rate. Yeah, and keep in mind that in question 2, we are given the natural rate of unemployment. We're given UN as 7%, 7.00%. All right. Okay. Now, the second part of the question, what we're going to be doing is determining whether in 2004 our country was undergoing a recession, and we're going to be doing the same thing for 2005. The best indicator to determine whether our country is undergoing a recession is obviously cyclical unemployment, not natural employment, but cyclical unemployment. So let's see now. Let's do it for 2004 first. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this equation here. The total unemployment rate is equal to the natural unemployment rate, which is 7%, plus the cyclical unemployment rate. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to calculate UC, which is the cyclical unemployment rate, and that's going to tell us whether our country is undergoing a recession. So we have already calculated the total unemployment rate, which is 6.57%. We know the natural rate of unemployment, 7%, and that's what we're trying to calculate is UC. All right. So what do we come up with? Negative 0.43% is the cyclical unemployment rate. So, question: is this a recession or no recession? Well, there is no cyclical unemployment. This negative number is kind of unusual. It's probably due to, well, statistical, let's call them statistical discrepancies. But since, from a mathematical perspective, since cyclical unemployment is, well, 0 or a negative number, very close to 0, then our conclusion is there is no recession in year 2004. So, conclusion, no recession. Now let's move to year 2005. All right. Now we're doing the same thing that we did in the previous slide for the year 2005. So equation, the total unemployment rate is equal to the natural rate of unemployment, 7% again. That's a given, I want to remind you, plus UC. That's the cyclical unemployment rate, right? So what is our calculation for the total unemployment rate? 7.21%. What is the natural rate of unemployment? That's given to us as 7%. And once again, we're trying to calculate the cyclical unemployment rate. And that's what's going to tell us whether our economy is undergoing a recession. So if we do the calculations, our answer would be 0.21% of cyclical unemployment. All right. All right. So what's our conclusion about 2005? Are we undergoing a recession? Well, it's a small one. It could be the beginning of a bigger one, but our conclusion has to be that yes, in 2005 there is a recession, or at the least there is a start of a recession. Okay, I think I'm done. Your next assignment is going to be gamma. I'm using the Greek alphabet, right? Alpha, beta, gamma. It just means the third assignment. All right? I'll post that. Stay safe. Ciao, ciao.